Good day. And I'm Tom Bingham, and welcome to Overlanders Then and Now. I'm joined as always by my fellow journeyman and blogcaster, Jim King. Where are we headed today, Doc?
Good day to you, Banks, and hello, everyone. Today we're going to be jumping back to November of 77. Now, by that point, we were well over a month into our European adventure and kind of picking up the pace, trying to hit all the cities on our list before our Eurail passes expired, right?
Yeah, right, Jimmy. And
Yeah.
if you've been keeping up with our posts and videos, you'll know that we weren't always successful in sticking to the schedule. We had devised over more than a few beers back in
Oh,
the States.
more than a few. Yep.
There was just too much to see and experience, too much that we didn't want to rush. And looking back, Jimmy, yes, we probably should have spent more time in Switzerland. Even, however, it was interesting, Doc. It was a bit pricey for our budget travel budgets at that time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we were averaging about $12 a day
Yeah.
at that point, but
Hmm.
that was impossible to sustain in Switzerland, even back then. So, money aside, I also think we were both itching to move on, and Italy was
Yes.
next.
Yeah, Jimmy, yes. In addition to all the reasons we listed in the written part of the blog, warmer weather,
Right.
Italian cuisine,
Hmm.
and a chance to visit the spiritual heart of our shared faith, we were sure, Jimmy, that Italy was going to be easier on our budget.
Yeah, and it was. It was. So,
Hmm.
on that score, anyway, our expectations were met. But if I recall correctly, Banks, your expectations changed once we hit the Italian border and switched trains, right?
Jimmy, I didn't know what to expect. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And because, Jim, I was thinking, oh, all of Europe is going to be this efficient, tidy, order, punctuality of the countries that we had visited by that point, and especially we're coming out of Germany and Switzerland.
Yeah.
But I was surprised, Doc, by Italy.
Okay. Surprised? How?
Yeah,
How
Jimmy, it
so?
just kind of caught me, I don't know, Jim. Well, for starters, Doc, and we, mentioned in the blog post, the trains were nothing like those we had sort of gotten used to. I think in the blog we used the term rickety.
Yeah, well, that's the word we used in the blog. In my journal, the word I used was bumpy, preceded by
Yeah.
let's call it a colorful adjective that I won't repeat here.
Jimmy,
Uh,
it just wasn't the trains, though. That was the thing. The
yeah.
scenery was different.
Hmm.
The mountains were beautiful, of course, but Jimmy, unlike those tidy little farms and villages, that we encountered further north, the farms we would see from the train, they're not as tidy. They're not as well defined. And some of the houses, Doc, I have to say, looked a little ramshackle.
Hmm.
And not all, of course, but we hardly saw any, that fit the description either in Scandinavia or Northern Europe. It was, to me, it was kind of jarring. And not just because of the train movement.
Yeah, and that's when I noticed actually the first of two uncharacteristic things about you that rose to the surface once we hit Italy. First, you came dangerously close to actually complaining.
Doc, yeah.
Up till then,
Yeah.
every place we visited seemed to energize you more than the last. But
Yeah.
as we
Yep.
made our way to
Yep.
Venice, you seemed disappointed and you shared that disappointment repeatedly.
Can be guilty as charged, Doc. I don't know. Jim, I just don't know what it was. I guess we were on a pretty fast pace. Maybe I was just tired, Jim. But fortunately, though, you were patient.
Oh, I've never been accused of that, but anyway, I'll take it. So go ahead.
Oh, Jimmy. And when you got fed up with my complaining, you said greatly here, hey, Binks, just cool it. We're in Italy. Things are different here. We don't want it to be like Northern Europe and everything. Just let it all happen. You might enjoy it. And Jimmy, that was like a slap, upside the head. And as I said, and back then, but then, and thanks for that advice though, Jimmy. I did cool it. I did kind of absorb and get into the where I was. And I really did enjoy not just the scenery, Doc,
Mhm.
for what it was, but also the culture and the warmth of the people. So, Jimmy, thanks for that little pearl of wisdom, Doc. Really.
Well, you're welcome, but I confess that I have no memory of that at all.
No, it's
Uh,
in my journal. It's in my journal.
well, oh, good. All right, we can substantiate that. Anyway, it really sounds more like advice that I needed, not you. But um, if I did say it, I must have been channeling Joe Dowd, the man that we
Oh,
met in
yeah.
Munich, right?
Yeah.
Who told us
Uh-huh.
to absorb every moment. And it's
Yeah,
funny how those
Jim.
few words have stayed with us all these years. Do you follow that advice when you're not traveling? It seems to me you do. You're
Yeah.
always very curious and optimistic, right?
Oh, Jimmy, absolutely. But I don't think, Doc, this is interesting. I don't think I'd be as quite aware of the importance of absorbing every moment on the road
Mhm.
or off if I hadn't traveled, Doc.
Ah,
Absolutely.
uh-huh.
I carry with me, after our backpacking days and into my career, which is, Jimmy, I chose a career in travel, ironically enough. But Jimmy, I like to say I never worked a day in my life. What about you, Doc?
Well, I think I'm better about living in the moment now than I was back then. Back then, I think I was trying to fit the stereotype of the brooding, tortured,
Ooh,
pessimistic
ooh.
writer. But now that I'm older, I find that I am paying more
Good.
attention to the moment, just taking it
Yep.
in, whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
This helps me appreciate and feel grateful for God at our age, even having that moment, right?
Oh, a great way to put it, Doc. God, I hadn't thought of it that way, but true, Jimmy, true. And for the record, I've never known you to be pessimistic, Doc. Maybe a little
Uh,
cranky on rare occasions,
oh,
but
rare. Yeah, as in frequently, right? Yeah. Anyway, let's move on
oh,
to the
Jimmy.
city that we both agreed exceeded our
Yeah.
expectations,
Oh, yeah.
Venice. So what are your then and
Ah,
now thoughts, Binks?
Jimmy, just incredible. I know I say this when describing, it seems like every place that we go to, but Venice was unlike, Jimmy, unlike anywhere we had been. I'd read in Let's Go, hey, the city was built on water, on pylons, to escape the constant attacks of the barbarians who would not venture out into the water. But I had no idea, Jimmy, of the incredible uniqueness of the city. I had expected, oh, Jimmy, the usual city sights, the noises, the crowds, the cars. But it was all season, so this was great,
Right.
Doc. The crowds were less. And as soon as we stepped off, excuse me, out of the train station, Jim, I'll never forget, it was late, but there were no noise from cars, buses, because there were none, Jim. Unbelievable. I knew from
Right.
my
Yeah.
geography classes that Venice was a city of canals, but I had no idea, Doc, how much so. Oh, Jimmy, I fell in love with the place immediately.
Yeah. Me,
Immediately.
me too. Me too, Binks. And I'll never forget our grand entrance when we stepped off the Vaporetto,
Yeah, that Pareto. Yeah.
Vaporetto. Okay, good. At Piazza San Marco. The whole place was flooded.
Ah, Jimmy, what a night. What you couldn't ask for a better Venetian hello. They had those, and Jim, I'll never forget, they had those long boards all the way around this beautiful
Yeah.
Piazza San Marco. They were put on bricks so you'd be above the water. Oh, but God, Jimmy, I think it was still raining when we were doing it. It had to be, Jim.
I
It had to be. It made things loose.
I don't know. I do remember that it was foggy and overcast, and I think you're trying to blame the rain for knocking your glasses off and into the water. Yeah,
Yeah.
I still crack up. Sorry. Yeah, it just,
Yeah. Yes.
remembering seeing you hunched over,
Yeah,
perfectly
Jim, you
still,
can,
staring
yeah.
into the water as if you expected the glasses to pop up, like a
Uh,
salmon or something. I don't know,
yes, yes, yes,
but
Jimmy.
on a more serious note, thank God you had your contacts.
Yeah, yeah,
Although
yeah.
later
Yep.
and in a different city, even those weren't safe, right?
All right, Doc. Let's save that embarrassment for a future blogcast. Tell us what we remember most from Venice, Jimmy, and why. Do you know why?
All right. Well, for me, I mentioned two characteristics a minute ago. The second uncharacteristic thing that you did, which was, you know, really surprised me, you
Yeah.
abandoned your usual prepared itinerary to join me in just wandering
Doc,
around the city.
yeah,
Remember that?
Doc, it's true. It's unbelievable. That was a departure for me. I think
Yeah.
I had planned on touring, obviously, St. Mark's Basilica, the Doge's Palace. And Jimmy, I definitely wanted you to walk over the Bridge of Sighs. But yes, Jim, I decided to try your wander around strategy, Jimmy.
Yeah. And
It's
did you like
fascinating.
it? How did it work
Oh,
out? Aside
Jimmy,
from
I
the
loved it.
cranky company. Go ahead.
Jimmy, I loved it. Jimmy, I think it was the best way to experience, not just to see, to experience a city.
Hmm.
And of course, my advice is probably a combination, to see some of the historic sites so you get kind of a foundation, but then to be sure to set aside time to just wander along the canals. Oh, James, the sights, the sounds, the smells of everyday life in Venice really comes alive along those canals. And I still remember, Jim, of course, the sound of little kids, shouting in Italian and laughing.
Yeah,
Man.
I mean, there's no better city to wander than Venice. But it
Yeah,
sounds,
yeah.
from what you just said, like this could have been another moment of nirvana for you, Banks.
Oh, Jimmy, definitely. Definitely, Jim, because it was so unexpected.
Hmm.
Well, what about you, Doc?
Well, I just found it fascinating to watch, daily life unfold in a city,
Yeah.
which, as you've said many times, unlike any other. And I think we both had a tendency then to, whenever we visited a new site, to ask, could I live here?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I thought, definitely, yes. Maybe not permanently, but for a year or two, so long as I
Yeah.
lived in an apartment high above the flooding.
Jimmy, yeah. Jimmy and Bloody. I think the flooding continues to get worse,
Yeah,
year by year.
yeah,
And Jim, the other element that has affected Venice are the tourists. There's just the number of tourists is overwhelming, in season, off season now. That's
yeah.
a shame, Doc.
Yeah, it really is. I'm glad we were there before the era of
Yeah.
the monster
Hmm.
cruise ships. I did read somewhere, now that you mention it, that city officials are trying different ways to stem the tide of both cruise ships as well as tourists. I think they
Yeah,
limit the
Jimmy. Yeah.
number that can
Yes.
enter the
Yeah.
city.
I still worry, Jimmy, about just that climate fluctuations. That, to me, I
Yeah,
see as their greatest danger. And Jim, even though in 1977 we didn't visit St. Mark's and other sites, we did both return separately and toured those museums and sites. And it would be a tragedy, to civilization to lose those treasures, Jimmy, to rising waters and to over tourism.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's really. I'm glad we captured that when we did. So, anyway, so let's
Yeah.
stick to that optimistic attitude we were talking about a few minutes ago. And hope for the best for Venice. In the meantime, any final thoughts on the
Jimmy,
city
it's
of canals?
fascinating, Jimmy, how the water all throughout Venice kind of softened it. No cars. I love that. There's no cars, no honking, no, none
Yeah.
of these sounds. And there was, Jimmy, it was a calmness,
Hmm.
that was so different than other cities. And and Jimmy, still today, it is on my mind as what a great moments that 24 hours or 36 hours that we were there in Venice, Jimmy.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was just really, really special, Jim. And to the point that I have to admit, had a little emotional moment, Jimmy, when we were leaving, the next day to go back to Santa Lucia train station to head off.
Oh, you
But
didn't want to leave. You wanted to stay longer?
it, yeah, yeah, Jimmy, just magic, Jimmy. What
Yeah.
about you, Jimmy? What about you?
Well, that's the word, magic. I mean, it was quiet, that's true, except for San Marcos Square. Oh my God, that was crazy. But,
Yes,
the
yes.
city itself, the second time I went, just as magical as the first. I wouldn't mind going
Uh,
back for a
uh,
third,
yeah,
just not on a cruise ship, though.
yeah, fair enough, Doc. Fair enough. Okay, so as we're heading to Santa Lucia, where are we heading next, Doc? Where's our next journey?
South to the port city of Brindisi,
Ooh,
on our
ooh,
way to
ooh,
Greece.
ooh. Oh, Jimmy, can't wait. Turkey time is coming around. But for everyone watching and listening, we hope you'll join us. And until then, Doc,
Ciao, everyone.
ciao, everyone.
Well, the timing was off, but I pronounced that correctly, didn't I?
Yes, you did, Jim. You nailed it.
Okay.
Bravo. And bene bene.